Welcome back to Be Inspired from Life. Let me start with something simple, something we all think we understand. Time. When you're in your 20s, time feels generous. It feels patient. It feels like it's waiting on you. You wake up thinking, I've got years, I'll figure it out later. I'll get serious next year. I'll chase that dream once I'm more ready. And that's the lie. Time doesn't tap you on the shoulder and warn you when it's about to slip away. It doesn't send you a message saying this was your last free year. It just keeps moving quietly, relentlessly, while you're busy convincing yourself there's no rush. I used to think wasting time meant doing nothing, sleeping late, watching too much TV, hanging around. But wasting time is much more subtle than that. You can be busy every single day and still be wasting your life. You waste time when you stay in situations that no longer challenge you. You waste time when you keep relationships that drain you because you're afraid of being alone. You waste time when you choose comfort over growth, familiarity over purpose. That's the dangerous kind of waste, because it feels safe. It feels reasonable. And by the time you realize what it's cost you, the bill is already due. In your 20s, you don't feel the weight of delay. You feel the freedom of options. Everything is possible, so nothing feels urgent. But let me tell you something, possibility without action turns into regret. Years don't disappear all at once. They leak away slowly, in small excuses. One more year at a job you hate, one more year avoiding the gym, one more year saying you'll start tomorrow, and suddenly tomorrow shows up wearing the face of 10 years later, asking you what you did with all that time you swore you had. Time is the only currency that doesn't care about your intentions. It doesn't reward good plans. It only responds to what you actually do. You can't negotiate with it, can't borrow from the future, can't buy it back once it's gone. Money can be replaced. Opportunities can come again. Pride can be rebuilt. But time is final. Every hour you spend distracted, drifting, or doubting yourself is an hour you will never see again, no matter how badly you want it. And here's the part nobody tells you. Life doesn't punish wasted time immediately. That's why it's so easy to ignore. The consequences are delayed. You don't feel it at 23 or 25. You feel it at 35, when your energy isn't the same, when responsibilities are heavier, when the margin for error is smaller. You feel it when you look around and realize the people who took their time seriously are living a different life, not because they were better than you, but because they respected the clock. This isn't about panic. This isn't about rushing blindly or living in fear. It's about awareness. It's about understanding that every season of life has a purpose. And your 20s are not for drifting. They're for building. They're for laying foundations. They're for making mistakes quickly, learning fast, and growing strong. Every discipline you delay now becomes harder later. Every habit you avoid forming now becomes a battle in the future. Time magnifies everything, good and bad. What you plant early, you harvest easier, so stop treating time like it's infinite. Start treating it like the precious resource it is. Ask yourself better questions. Is what I'm doing today moving me closer to the person I want to become? Is this decision buying my future or stealing from it? Who am I becoming with how I spend my days? Because your life, in the end, will not be defined by your goals or your intentions. It will be defined by your calendar. You don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need a perfect plan. But you do need respect for your time, your energy, and your potential. Show up for your life now, not later. Use this season wisely, because one day you will look back and realize this was the moment that mattered most. Time doesn't wait. It never has. And the life you want is being built right now, by what you choose to do with this very moment. After you understand the value of time, the next truth hits even harder. Time alone doesn't build anything. You can want better, you can plan better, you can dream bigger, but none of it matters without discipline. And this is where most people get stuck, especially early in life. They wait to feel ready. They wait for motivation to show up like a spark of lightning, thinking one day they'll wake up inspired and unstoppable. Let me tell you something straight. That day rarely comes. Motivation is emotional, it's unpredictable. Discipline is dependable, and dependable wins every time. Motivation feels good. It makes you feel powerful, confident, excited, but it's a fair weather friend. It disappears the moment things get uncomfortable, boring, or hard. Discipline, on the other hand, shows up when you're tired. It shows up when you're discouraged. It shows up when nobody's watching and there's no applause. Discipline doesn't care how you feel. It cares about what needs to be done. And life doesn't reward how passionate you are. It rewards how consistent you are. In your 20s, it's easy to confuse potential with progress. You tell yourself, I could do this if I really tried. You tell yourself, I'm talented, I just haven't focused yet. But potential untrained is just a thought. It doesn't pay bills, it doesn't build strength, it doesn't create legacy. Discipline is what turns potential into reality. It's the daily decision to do the work even when your emotions are telling you to quit, scroll, sleep, or escape. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people don't fail because they lack ability. They fail because they lack structure. They don't fail because they aren't smart enough. They fail because they aren't consistent enough. Discipline is not about being extreme. It's about being intentional. It's about setting standards for yourself and honoring them, especially when it would be easier not to. You don't need discipline just for success, you need it for peace. Without discipline, your life is always reactive. You chase moods, you chase comfort, you chase approval. One good day makes you feel on top of the world, one bad day knocks you flat. Discipline creates stability. It gives you control over your direction. It allows you to trust yourself because you know you'll do what you said you would do. Understand this. Discipline is a form of self-respect. When you keep your word to yourself, you build confidence. When you break it repeatedly, you weaken your identity. Every skipped workout, every delayed goal, every excuse you accept quietly teaches you who you think you are. Discipline rewrites that story. It says, I am someone who shows up. I am someone who finishes. I am someone who does the hard thing even when no one is clapping. And it doesn't have to start big. In fact, it shouldn't. Discipline grows from small, boring actions repeated daily. Wake up when you said you would. Do the work before you feel ready. Finish what you start. These small acts may not feel heroic, but they compound. Over time, they create momentum. Momentum creates confidence. Confidence creates opportunity. That's how real progress happens. Not in dramatic moments, but in quiet commitment. Life will test you. There will be days when your energy is low, your faith is shaky, and your progress feels invisible. Those are the days discipline matters most. Because anyone can show up when it's easy. Winners are built on the days they didn't want to, but did anyway. That's the difference. That's the separator. So don't wait for motivation. Train discipline. Don't ask yourself how you feel. Ask yourself who you want to become. Because in the end, the life you admire is built by habits you're willing to practice when comfort is calling you in the opposite direction. Discipline won't always feel good, but it will always take you somewhere worth going. Once you begin to respect your time and build discipline, there's another truth that becomes impossible to ignore. Your environment is either lifting you up or quietly pulling you down. And most people underestimate just how powerful that force really is. You don't rise or fall in isolation. You are shaped, daily, subtly, relentlessly, by what you see, what you hear, and who you allow close to you. In your 20s, it's easy to believe you're strong enough to resist influence. You tell yourself, I know who I am, I won't be affected. But influence doesn't announce itself. It doesn't knock on the door, it slips in through routine conversations, shared habits, late nights, inside jokes, and accepted standards. You slowly start to normalize what you're surrounded by. What once felt unacceptable becomes tolerable. What once felt uncomfortable becomes familiar. And familiarity is powerful. It can either sharpen you or soften you. Look closely at the people you spend the most time with. Not what they say they want, but how they live. Are they growing or complaining, building or blaming, learning or escaping? Because ambition is contagious, but so is complacency. Discipline spreads, but so does laziness. Courage spreads, but fear spreads faster. You don't have to copy anyone consciously to be influenced by them. Over time, you simply begin to match the emotional and mental temperature of your circle. This is where many people lose years of their life without realizing it. They stay loyal to environments that no longer serve them because it feels comfortable, because it feels familiar, because they don't want to feel like they've outgrown anyone. But growth often requires separation, not out of arrogance, not out of judgment, but out of necessity. You cannot build a new future while clinging tightly to an old identity. And it's not just people, it's places, routines, digital spaces and habits. The room you wake up in, the content you consume, the conversations you repeat. All of it is shaping your thinking. If your environment constantly reinforces distraction, excuses, and low standards, discipline becomes 10 times harder. But when your environment supports focus, effort, and growth, discipline feels natural. You don't have to fight as hard when the world around you is aligned with where you're trying to go. Here's the hard part. Changing your environment often feels lonely at first. You'll feel misunderstood. You'll feel guilty. You'll feel like you're leaving pieces of yourself behind. But loneliness with purpose is far better than company without direction. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to walk away from what no longer challenges you to rise. And let me be clear, this doesn't mean cutting everyone off or thinking you're better than anyone else. It means being intentional. It means choosing proximity wisely. It means spending more time with people who challenge your thinking, who hold you accountable, who make you uncomfortable in the right ways. People who don't just support your dreams but demand more from you when you start shrinking back. Your environment should stretch you, not sedate you. It should remind you of your potential, not distract you from it. If every time you talk about growth you're met with sarcasm, doubt, or jokes meant to keep you small, that's not harmless. That's conditioning. And over time, conditioning becomes identity. You don't need everyone to understand your journey. You need the right few who respect it. And sometimes that few starts with just you, creating space, silence, and structure where your goals can breathe. Sometimes success begins when you stop explaining yourself and start protecting your energy. Pay attention to what feels normal around you. Normal conversations, normal weekends, normal ambitions. Because what you accept as normal eventually becomes your ceiling. And if you want a different life, you must be willing to build a different environment. One choice, one boundary, one decision at a time. You don't rise to the level of your dreams. You sink or rise to the level of your environment. Choose it carefully, because it's quietly deciding the future you'll live in. By the time you start taking control of your time, your discipline, and your environment, you begin to notice something else standing quietly in your way. Comfort. Not pain, not failure, comfort. And that's the one that gets most people, because comfort doesn't feel like an enemy. It feels like relief. It feels like safety. It feels like you're being smart. But comfort is subtle, and over time it becomes dangerous. Comfort whispers, "You've done enough for today." Comfort says, "You can push harder tomorrow." Comfort tells you, "Don't risk what you already have." And before you know it, years pass with the same routines, the same conversations, the same level of effort. Nothing falls apart, so you assume everything is fine. But inside, something is shrinking. Your edge dulls, your hunger fades, your courage gets quieter. Most people don't fail because they tried and lost. They fail because they never fully tried at all. They played it safe. They chose certainty over possibility. They avoided embarrassment, rejection, and discomfort at all costs. And in doing so, they avoided growth. Because growth doesn't happen where it's comfortable. Growth happens where you're stretched, where your ego gets tested, where you're forced to learn instead of hide. In your 20s especially, comfort is seductive. You're young enough to recover, so you assume there's time to experiment later. You stay in jobs that don't challenge you because the paycheck is steady. You stay in relationships that don't inspire you because they're familiar. You avoid taking risks because you don't want to look foolish. But the real risk isn't failing. It's staying the same for too long. Here's what comfort costs you. It steals your urgency. It convinces you that average is acceptable. It numbs the discomfort that's supposed to push you forward. When you're comfortable, you stop asking hard questions. You stop demanding more from yourself. You stop growing muscles you haven't needed yet but will desperately need later. And let's be honest, fear plays a role too. Fear of judgment. fear of failing publicly, fear of realizing you're not as good as you hoped. But fear isn't the problem. Fear is information. It's a signal that you're standing at the edge of growth. The mistake is letting fear make decisions for you. The mistake is listening to fear instead of learning from it. Every meaningful step forward requires a little humiliation, a little uncertainty. A little discomfort. You don't gain confidence first and then act. You act, and confidence follows. You don't wait until you're fearless. You move while you're afraid. The people you admire didn't avoid discomfort. They trained themselves to walk straight into it. Comfort will never ask you to become more. It will only ask you to maintain. But life doesn't reward maintenance. Life rewards expansion. And expansion requires pressure. Just like muscles grow by tearing and rebuilding, your character grows through challenge. If you remove all discomfort from your life, you don't become peaceful, you become weak. There will be moments when the safe choice feels like the responsible choice, and sometimes it is. But too often, it's just fear dressed up in logic. You tell yourself you're being practical, when in reality you're being protective. You're guarding the version of yourself that already exists instead of investing in the version that could exist. Ask yourself this: when was the last time you did something that scared you a little but aligned deeply with who you want to become? When was the last time you chose growth over ease? If it's been a while, that's not a reason for shame. It's a wake-up call. You don't need to make reckless moves. You need to make brave ones, ones that stretch you, ones that demand more effort, more focus, more belief than you're comfortable giving. Because comfort may feel good today, but it will cost you tomorrow. The life you want is on the other side of the discomfort you keep avoiding. And the moment you choose growth over comfort is the moment your future starts to change. After you've learned to respect time, build discipline, choose your environment wisely, and step outside comfort, there's one truth that ties all of it together. And this one is hard to hear because it removes every excuse you've ever leaned on. No one is coming to save you. There is no perfect moment, no magical person, no sudden breakthrough that will arrive and carry you forward. If your life is going to change, it will change because you decided to take responsibility for it. In your 20s, it's easy to wait. You wait for confidence. You wait for permission. You wait for someone to notice your potential and open a door for you. You wait for circumstances to improve before you give your best. But waiting quietly teaches you a dangerous habit. It teaches you that your life is something that happens to you, instead of something you actively shape. Let me tell you something real. Nobody is thinking about your future as much as you are. And nobody is obligated to rescue you from the consequences of your choices. That's not harsh, that's freedom. The moment you stop expecting the world to hand you clarity, motivation, or opportunity is the moment you step into power. Responsibility is heavy, yes, but it's also the key that unlocks everything. We live in a time where it's easy to blame. Blame your upbringing, blame the economy, blame your age, blame your past mistakes. And some of those things are real, some of them hurt, some of them weren't fair, but blaming them won't move your life forward 1 inch. Responsibility doesn't deny reality. It simply refuses to be controlled by it. Here's the shift that changes everything. When you take responsibility, you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "What am I going to do about it?" That question puts you back in the driver's seat. It turns problems into assignments. It turns obstacles into training. It turns setbacks into lessons instead of life sentences. And responsibility doesn't mean you never struggle. It means you don't quit when you do. It means you stop outsourcing your self-worth to other people's opinions. It means you stop waiting for applause to validate your effort. It means you show up even when no one notices, because you know who you're becoming depends on it. A lot of people want the freedom of success without the weight of ownership. They want the rewards without the responsibility. But life doesn't work that way. Freedom comes from responsibility, not before it. When you own your choices, you own your outcomes. When you own your actions, you reclaim control over your future. There's a moment in every person's life when they realize no one is going to knock on the door and say, "This is your time." You have to decide that for yourself. You have to wake up and say, "This is on me to grow, on me to heal, on me to improve, on me to stop repeating the same patterns and expecting different results. And that moment can feel scary, because it means there's nowhere left to hide. But it's also empowering because it means there's nothing stopping you except your willingness to act. You don't need to know every step. You just need to take the next right one. Responsibility isn't about having all the answers. It's about committing to find them. When you take responsibility, excuses lose their power. Procrastination gets uncomfortable. Comfort becomes suspicious. You start measuring your days differently. You start asking yourself harder questions. And slowly, quietly, your life begins to change, not because the world changed, but because you did. So stop waiting to be rescued. Stop hoping someone else will fix what only you can face. Stand up, take ownership, and move forward, even imperfectly. Because the day you accept full responsibility for your life is the day you stop being a spectator and start becoming the author of your future. When you finally understand time, discipline, environment, discomfort, and responsibility, everything starts pointing to one unavoidable truth. The greatest investment you will ever make is in yourself. Not your job title, not your bank balance, not your reputation. Your body, your skills, and your mindset. Those are the assets that follow you everywhere you go. And neglecting them doesn't show up as pain right away, which is why so many people ignore them until it's too late. In your 20s, your body feels forgiving. You can stay up late, eat poorly, skip movement, and still wake up functioning. You think strength, energy, and health are permanent. They're not. They're rented, and the rent is due every single day. Every habit you build now is either preserving your future or quietly stealing from it. Your body is not just something you live in, it's the vehicle that carries every dream you have. And if you don't take care of it, it will eventually limit how far you can go, no matter how strong your ambition is. But this isn't about perfection or vanity. It's about respect. Respecting your energy, respecting your longevity, respecting the fact that discipline in your health doesn't just give you years to your life, it gives life to your years. When your body is strong, your mind is clearer. When your energy is high, your confidence rises. When you feel capable physically, you begin to trust yourself mentally. Everything is connected. The same is true for skills. Talent is overrated, skill is earned, and skills compound just like interest. What you practice consistently becomes powerful over time. What you ignore becomes a weakness that limits your options. The world doesn't reward intention, it rewards value. And value comes from what you can do, what you can solve, what you can create. If you stop learning, you start shrinking, even if your paycheck grows. Too many people treat learning like a phase instead of a lifestyle. They stop once school ends. They assume experience alone is enough. But experience without reflection turns into repetition, not growth. Skills are what give you leverage. They give you confidence in unfamiliar rooms. They give you freedom when circumstances change. And in a world that's constantly evolving, the ability to adapt is the ultimate advantage. Then there's mindset, the quiet architect behind everything. Your mindset determines how you interpret failure, how you handle pressure, how you respond to setbacks. Two people can experience the same hardship, and one grows while the other breaks. The difference is not circumstance, it's perspective. A strong mindset doesn't mean you never doubt yourself, it means you don't let doubt make decisions for you. Your inner dialogue matters more than you think. The way you speak to yourself when no one is listening becomes the voice you obey when things get hard. If your mind is filled with excuses, fear, and self-criticism, discipline becomes exhausting. But when your mindset is trained toward growth, responsibility, and resilience, effort feels purposeful. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" Investing in your mindset means learning how to think under pressure. It means choosing long-term fulfillment over short-term comfort. It means understanding that setbacks are not signs to stop, but signals to adjust. Life. E will test you. That part is guaranteed. The only question is whether you've trained your mind to endure, adapt, and rise. Here's the part people miss. Neglecting these investments doesn't feel dangerous in the moment. Skipping workouts doesn't hurt today. Avoiding learning doesn't sting tomorrow. Feeding a weak mindset doesn't collapse your life overnight. But over time, these small neglects stack up. And one day, you wake up tired, stuck and frustrated, wondering how life got so heavy. It didn't happen all at once. It happened slowly through choices you thought didn't matter. The earlier you invest in yourself, the easier life becomes later. Not easy, but easier. You have more energy to face challenges, more skill to create opportunities, more mental strength to stay steady when things don't go your way. You stop relying on luck because you've built capacity. You stop fearing change because you've built competence. You stop doubting yourself because you've built proof. And this isn't about comparison. It's not about trying to outrun anyone else. It's about becoming stronger than who you were yesterday. It's about honoring the future version of yourself who will one day look back and say, "Thank you for doing the hard work when it mattered." You don't have to transform everything at once. You just have to start showing up differently. Move your body with intention. Sharpen a skill with consistency. Guard your mindset like it's sacred, because it is. These are daily choices, not dramatic moments, and over time they shape the quality of your entire life. Because when everything else is stripped away, when circumstances change and plans fall apart, you are left with who you've built yourself to be. And that is either your greatest limitation or your greatest advantage. Invest in yourself now, relentlessly and without apology, because the strongest future you can have is the one built by the choices you make today. Thank you so much for watching. If this video inspired you, be sure to like, share and subscribe to be inspired from life for more motivational content. And remember, no matter where you are in life, you have the power to change your future. See you in the next video.